Interior design trends can offer us a distinct aesthetic and be used to design spaces in a cohesive manner with visual appeal. Think mid-century modern, Art Deco, Scandinavian, even shabby chic. Some of these trends have dominated interiors for decades and have become so ubiquitous that we don't even consider them design trends anymore. They are simply a beloved addition to our current design vernacular. But how can you tell if a trend will stand the test of time before we introduce it into our space? How do you decide how much or how little you add before the trend becomes a full-blown themed home? In today's video, we're discussing some of the most popular 2025 interior design trends currently on my radar and how you can add elements into your home to keep it fresh and exciting. Hello everyone, I'm Julie, a formerly trained certified interior designer, and on this channel we love to talk about all things home and design. The first trend we'll be discussing on today's list is Rococo Revival, a trend that is very near and dear to my heart. The Rococo aesthetic is an ornate and lavish decorative style that originated in 18th century France as a reaction to the more formal and rigid Baroque period. It's characterized by its lightness, elegance, and playful use of curves, pastel colors, and intricate details. In interior design, Rococo is all about creating a sense of luxury, romance, and whimsy. If you're looking to adopt the Rococo Revival aesthetic into your home, here are some of the design details that you can be looking out for. A palette of blush pinks, powder blues, and creamy whites really sets a tone for a light and romantic atmosphere. Accents of gilded gold or silver add a refined touch of luxury. Rococo furniture is all about ornate detailing and curvy furniture. Look for furniture with elegant curves, cabriole legs, and intricate carvings that bring a sense of opulence. Gilded finishes and upholstered details in silk or velvet enhance the lavish feel. When we think of adding playful, romantic Rococo elements into interior design and home decor, you want to look for floral motifs, cherubs or angels, and nature-inspired designs in artwork and decor that create that whimsical, fantastical feeling. I am a glam girl at heart, so I love the crystal chandeliers, the ornate detailing on like gilded mirrors. Just think about all those elements that add like a sparkle and a touch of grandeur. But how do you adopt this style in your own home to make it feel current and fresh? Let's take a look at some of these images and dissect some of the design details in a modern setting. I mean, this space alone just screams gorgeous, right? I mean, clearly we know this is a hotel setting. You already have that like intricate molding on the ceiling, the crown, the trim, the casings, all the way down to the floors. You'll notice that all of the doors, I mean, they're paneled, but the panels aren't just painted with one solid color. You always want to inject a little bit of that sparkle and glamour. So think gold or silver. And you can also really look at your coloring as well. Like for me, even though I love silver, I feel like my aesthetic leans more towards like warm autumnal fall colors, which go great with gold. On the flip side, if your aesthetic was more of like cool tones, think greens, blues, purples, you can inject some gold in there to warm it up a little bit. Or if you wanted to stay on that cool tone spectrum, you would add silver instead. So if we're looking at a space like this and you're kind of dissecting all of the Rococo elements, we've got some gilding and gold in here, but check out the drapery. The drapery is like a cool tone silver, so the space doesn't feel too washed in all of this gold gilding. So I actually like the tension that you can create with analogous colors. I feel like that serpentine kind of sofa, that curvy sofa, really modernizes the space. You don't want to go full-blown Rococo unless you're like a modern day queen, which clearly we all are, I think. There are so many choices that you can make here with this seating group. I love that they chose to add in a glass coffee table here because wood would have seemed like really out of place. You know, I love the warmth of wood in a modern setting, but glass here just feels so chic. It feels so modern, and at the same time, it really just draws your eyes around the room instead of the furniture. So if you're going to adopt some Rococo elements and you want to think about architectural detailing, you don't have to mimic that same design with like Rococo furnishings. You can just add one Rococo element to an entire room and you'll really be able to bring that touch of grandeur home. This is something that I can totally see in like a Parisian pied-à-terre. I love the parquet floors. I love this like rich ornate details on the marble fireplace. You can specify pre-made fireplace mantles or hearth designs that look exactly like this. They pre-make it, you buy it as like one whole piece. Maybe sometimes you buy it as like two pieces, and then you can install this in your home right over the existing opening of your firebox. If you didn't add any of the panel molding, the ornate crown, even this like inset Mirror, which I love. I mean, I love a mirror on mirror look. You can get rid of all of this ornate detailing on the walls. Just have this fireplace, some of this empire furnishings, and you're almost mixing in like 18th, 19th century French styles in a space that feels fresh, it feels dynamic, and it feels very current to me. This is something that I would love for my home. I mean, parquet floors are like every designer's dream, or at least this designer's dream. One day I shall have it, including this Rococo Revival fireplace. So what do you think of Rococo Revival? Is it hot or is it not? Is it something that you can see in your own home in microdoses? Let me know in the comments below. Another popular interior design trend for 2025 that's currently on my radar is Castlecore. The Castlecore aesthetic is a romanticized, fantasy-inspired design trend that draws heavily from medieval castles, Gothic architecture, and fairy tale elements. It evokes a sense of timelessness, grandeur, often blending historical influences with dreamy touches. In terms of interior design and home decor, Castlecore is all about creating spaces that feel like they belong in a storybook or medieval fortress while still being functional and livable. When I think of Castlecore, I almost think like Harry Potter, right? Everyone knows what the dark academia aesthetic looks like. Even though there are a lot of dark elements involved, there's still a way for you to make it feel fresh and exciting. Some of the notable design features that you see in the Castlecore aesthetic is stone surrounds. Make use of a lot of stone and wood textures that mimic like a rough stone wall that you see in a castle. Exposed wood beams and natural wood elements add to that rustic medieval feel. In terms of a cohesive color palette, I want you to think of a very historic atmosphere. Deep earthy tones like forest green, burgundy, charcoal gray, almost like you're in the moors. Some of the Gothic and medieval details that I love in interior design have everything to do with the architectural detailing. Think arched doorways, stained glass windows, and vaulted ceilings that kind of mimic that castle architecture. Look for furniture with decorative carvings and ornate detailing that kind of mimic that craftsmanship of the medieval era. In a modern setting, the Castlecore aesthetic can look a little something like this. The first thing that my eye draws to is this fabulous stained glass window. I mean, this is a statement in its own. This is such a wow factor that is one of those elements that if I bought a home that kind of had something like this, I would not dare touch it. And if you're someone who loves the floor plan or the footprint of like a really old school home that has this ornate detailing, and the first thing that you want to do is knock it out, please, for the love of design, choose another home, okay? Let's save this for someone who really loves this design style and could really bring it to the modern age. You know, it hurts my heart as an interior designer the minute I see an old home gets completely demolished to rebuild like just a modern white box. I hate that. There's so many elements here that I love, and it doesn't feel dark. You know, it doesn't feel cold. That's the power of adding modern furnishings to a classic space. We have the settee here that kind of forms this seating group, and it's just very clean lines. There's not a whole lot of ornate detailing. Even that commode is a very contemporary console that's facing the seating. So you don't have to go like balls to the wall, Castlecore, medieval Gothic. We're just kind of looking for some of the design elements that inspires your interior and kind of informs your choices. Okay, look at this dark and moody bedroom with like the dark olive green on the walls, you know, this dark bedding. There's a lot of texture in this space. So even though we get some of that medieval paneling that's on the walls, everything else in the space feels very current, very new. Crystal chandeliers are really great feng shui enhancers when you want to add a little bit more energy to a room or a space. So I can see how a dark and cavernous room like this with like all dark walls could feel like very depressing to some. But for me, I actually like a moody space. The minute you turn on the chandelier, all of those crystal facets are going to illuminate the entire room, and it's going to make it feel so romantic and very elevated. There is nothing Gothic about this dining room at all. This looks like a dining room that I could have, my neighbor can have, you know, across the street. So my point is, there's a timeless appeal to this type of modern setting. But here is how we're introducing just one kind of Castlecore element into this space. We've got this wrought iron pendant with this kind of ornate curved arms. I love this. You have this candelabra with this little like wick detail that almost mimics the look of candlelight. If you love those really dark elements, you know, you also want to think about mimicking that wrought iron, that matte black detailing with your hardware. Check out the door handles, okay? You could have chosen gold, you could have chosen silver, but instead you go for like a black element that mirrors that black pendant. So you see how you can create a dialogue from room to room with some of your interior detailing. Even though this is not like an original pendant that you would get from like a medieval castle, it kind of has that feel. I want you to think about those design details and how you can carry them through the home so it feels a little bit more cohesive and well thought out. Versus something like this, which like screams Castlecore to me. I mean, this really is a beautiful space. You can't see a whole lot because it's so dimly lit with only like 2 light sources, right? We have natural light streaming through the singular window and then one little like ambient sconce. I bet you if this space were lit with like another light source, maybe even like a small little table lamp, symmetrical wall sconces on the wall that's kind of like on both sides of the mirror, this space could feel like my favorite like date night restaurant. You know, it's so cozy, it's romantic. So what do you think of this year's Castlecore interior design trend? Is it 2025's answer to dark academia? Are there elements of this trend that you would adopt in your own home? What do you think? Castlecore, hot or not? The next popular design trend for 2025 that is currently on my radar is the Fisherman aesthetic. The Fisherman aesthetic is a charming nautical-inspired design style that evokes a simplicity, ruggedness, and romance of life by the sea. It draws inspiration from maritime traditions, coastal living, and the practical yet stylish elements of sailors' and fishermen's lifestyles. This aesthetic is perfect for creating a relaxed coastal vibe in interior design and home decor. I think of all of the design elements that we've discussed so far, the Fisherman's aesthetic, kind of that sailor nautical theme, is so easily adopted into your home. Some of the notable design elements you might already even have in your house. Think reclaimed wood architecture, natural fibers like woven, jute, sisal, rope baskets. The color palette is really what you expect from the ocean and the sea. Navy blue and white as like a foundational color combo, but you can also add in elements of greens, golds, silvers. Think beach, think ocean. Really, you can get the entire spectrum of colors in a fisherman's aesthetic in your own home. It really just depends on how you want to use it. If we want to adopt the fisherman's aesthetic with a function-driven design, I mean, really, here's how you do it. Think of multi-purpose furniture that maximizes space, such as wooden storage benches or foldable tables. You might even want to consider a galley-style kitchen with a compact and efficient layout. Open shelving in the kitchen would be a great design statement so that you can display some nautical decor, even some practical elements like dishware and cookware that you want to expose. Let's take a look at some of these spaces in a modern setting and how they use a fisherman's aesthetic, to me, in a very clean, cohesive, and well-designed way. I love this space. I mean, this is wood paneling done right. I even love some of those knotty elements that you see, which could be pine. I mean, you see knotty pine a lot. If you don't like that high contrast in the wood stains, you want to stick to a wood without a whole lot of contrast, like red and white oak, which is why designers love to use oak for that seamless kind of appeal. In this space, it's all about the woods, but nothing else to me feels like nautical, right? You've got like a cognac colored Chesterfield sofa. It's just like a classic design. We've got some of this modern art on the walls. I can see how they introduce like pops of blue into the space to kind of break up the warmth of these woods. So I love that. You're also adding in some natural elements, even the wallpaper that's covering, you know, that rear wall, like that accent wall, which you know how I feel about accent walls. I'm actually gonna plug a video here called Accent Walls, Do's and Don'ts. One of those common design mistakes that you should actually totally steer clear of, kind of putting up an accent wall for accent wall's sake, right? I almost want to see what else is going on in that like adjacent dining area, so I know whether or not this design feels cohesive. But I actually love the space. It feels fresh, it feels whimsical, and it almost even makes me want to know who the homeowners are, so I love that. So here is a super contemporary interpretation of the Fisherman's aesthetic in a very coastal environment. I mean, clearly, right? This is so beautiful. This is really, really pretty. It's very serene. I think that's the first word that pops into my head. It has a very Zen vibe. But look at all of these elements. You know, you've got the blues on the sofas. You got these curvy, chunky seats. It almost feels like it's gonna like wrap you and envelop you. It feels very cozy, this space. All of those natural materials and elements that I was talking about before with the Fisherman's aesthetic is like right here in the space. We have the woven lampshade. You've got the jute rug. You've even got this paper lantern pendant light that's on the ceiling. Like, I bet you the minute you turn that on, the entire room gets washed in this really dreamy glow. I love this space. This is so expertly done. Now that I'm kind of looking and dissecting this entire design, it's so chic. Even this moody painting that's on the wall looks like, you know, the sailor. He went out to sea. He's been out there for like a month by himself. And these are the colors that he sees. You know, all he brought is like a canvas and some acrylic paint. And there he goes. You know, he's capturing all of the colors of the oceans and the sea. And, you know, when the sunset hits the water, oh, I love this. This space feels so doable and absolutely timeless. What a gorgeous interior. Let's look at the Fisherman's aesthetic in this modern day kitchen. There's nothing about this kitchen that screams Fisherman's to me. This just looks coastal. It looks chic. You see that woven navy and white striped bar stools. You've even got that sky blue subway tile that's lining the backsplash of the kitchen. I mean, that's so chic. I like how they even expose, you know, some of their pots and pans. I mean, there's a whole lot happening in this kitchen. To me, it actually feels like a lot of clutter. It doesn't feel overly styled to me. It almost looks like this is styled to look exactly like how someone lives. And I kind of like that. I think for YouTubers, you want to see more real homes. I understand that. But at the same time, the minute that I show this to a design client and I say, hey, I want to mimic this design, the first thing they're going to say is there's just too much clutter. So I want you to think about that as well, okay? Even though I'm showing you guys like these beautifully styled spaces, the idea is to get you to look at those singular elements and see how can I put that in my like 1,000 square foot home. You know, I don't have these huge mansions, but we're not talking about that. This kitchen doesn't even look like it's huge. It almost looks just like a 10 by 10 kitchen, which is very average. But then again, you know, with those natural materials, you know, the wood beam on the ceiling, the shiplap that's also clad on the ceiling as well. I love that. You know, the exposed industrial pipes that's holding the pots and pans. Even though this is not something that I personally am drawn to, think about capturing the essence of that style versus putting like the literal interpretation in your home. I mean, I don't want to wake up to a dining room that looks exactly like Kicking Crab. You know what I mean? The last interior design style for 2025 that's currently on my radar, it's one of the hottest styles that I absolutely love. I want this in my house right now, or at least a vacation home, is a Luxe Cabin look. The Luxe Cabin, or often referred to as mountaineering or Swedish, is an aesthetic vibe that combines the rugged charm of a mountain lodge with the refined elegance of Scandinavian design. Think of it as like a high-end retreat in the woods, you know, almost like you're glamping, where nature meets sophistication. Some of the notable elements when it comes to natural materials and textures are light woods, stone, leather furnishings, minimalist furniture, and uncluttered spaces that emphasize functionality and calm. A neutral color palette with earthy accents keeps the space serene and inviting. I think for the Luxe Cabin feel, the mountaineering feel, it's all about a vibe. You don't have to define what the style is. I just want you to think about how you want to feel in a space. If I looked at a space like this, of course, with this like picturesque mountain backdrop, I want you to take me right there, right now. I know that I'm going to unplug, no electronics, no iPads, no phone, and just enjoy nature at its finest. That's what this space does for me. And it's not a whole lot of embellishments, okay? So even though I talked about all of the texture and those tactile finishes, it doesn't mean that you have to pull everything in, just some elements. We didn't even talk about a color palette with a Luxe Cabin vibe, which indicates to me that you really can use a spectrum of colors in the space, even something like blues and greens against the warmth and richness of woods to make it feel so modern and contemporary. I really love this space. I mean, this is very modern. Anytime you have like a black box and it's like all 90-degree angles, and this is your fireplace, it's even elevated, it's a floating fireplace. So for me, this already is in like a very modern contemporary setting. Even the furnishings don't feel like a cabin vibe at all. But if you're looking for design finishes that you can adopt into your own space, like this cowhide rug, this is something that is not only timeless, but it can work with so many different styles. We've got like a very Scandinavian vibe here, right? So you've got the clean line furnishings. They're neutral colors, but it's not like bright colors. You've got like a darker taupe. You have like inky charcoal in there. So this cabin feels less cabin and more like an elevated interior to me. Oh, this is so pretty. This is almost like a breath of fresh air. It's like you are taking a walk in the forest and all of a sudden you come back to your Luxe Cabin, and we've got, you know, some elements in here that feel like the great outdoors, but it's very modern. The furniture feels like something I could have found at IKEA. I mean, there's that, you know, Scandi vibe check. You got all of these hanging plants, and then you have this like indoor tree. There's more nature elements check. Now, what I want you to notice in this space is the mix of woods. Like they have stained the woods in so many different like colors. It feels like a cohesive design statement, but without like all wood cladding. I know a lot of people think, you know, oh my gosh, wood paneling. I mean, they left that in the 80s for a reason. But the 80s wood paneling was like cheap veneer. Anytime you use authentic materials, natural materials, organic materials, without doing anything to it, it already feels elevated. Almost like the food that we eat, right? Food that we eat nowadays is like so processed. So if you could go like from farm to table, that's where the appeal is. We want to go from nature to interior. I feel like that is the true essence of the Luxe Cabin interior design aesthetic. I'm not saying that you need to drop in like a huge antler chandelier, you know, like a bull's head on your mantle and like a bearskin rug right in the middle of your living room, unless you like that look and unless you have the money to spend on this type of decor. I stayed in a luxury rental in Lake Arrowhead that looks almost exactly like this, but they've updated it. So if you want to see a contemporary interpretation of this exact same space, it could look a little something like this. Now, what do you think of this Luxe Cabin vibe? Does this feel sophisticated and elevated to you, or does it still feel like a gimmicky theme? These trends have their distinct vibes and directions, but some of these seem to overlap a little bit more than I thought. The commonalities in these trends and many of the other ones that we've already discussed for 2025 is raw materials, organic shapes, more inspiration from the natural world that really is taking center stage. I feel like we all want to personalize our space and we want to get back to what feels real, raw, genuine, and authentic to us. With the rise of so many artificial, procedural, and automated techniques, there is a greater pride and emphasis on aesthetics that seem organic and may take some more time and your patience. Remember that looking to nature is one of the greatest interior design inspirations. I love to see all of the creative ways that it's being incorporated into modern settings today. I want to encourage you to take the time to create and really build something real. We want classic designs that are going to stand the test of time. That's it for today's video, everyone. I hope you enjoyed 2025 popular interior design trends that are currently on my radar. I know some of you have really strong feelings whether or not you think the trend is hot, is it not? Definitely weigh in the comment section below. Remember that there is a core difference between styles and themes in interior design. Having a distinct style is more than stringing like a bunch of themes together. Just think of the farmhouse aesthetic, right? The farmhouse style and the farmhouse theme are two totally different beasts. If you're taking the farmhouse style and you want to incorporate that into your kitchen, you could be using rustic and classic touches like distressed wood beams, even shiplap on the walls. But if you want to incorporate that farmhouse theme into your kitchen, it would be like cows, chickens, ducks, maybe even like a red barn, right? So there is a huge difference, you know? I mean, which sounds like the more stylish space to you? We'll be ending the video with this week's quote that I feel really resonated with me when I'm talking about design trends. Everyone should learn to do one thing supremely well because they like it, and one thing supremely well because they detest it. That's a quote by Brigham Young because it's so apropos to not only the design industry, but really like life overall in general. Sometimes we don't know what we like until we know what we hate. So it's almost like I'm studying all of these design trends. I'm kind of seeing them cycle in and out year after year. And the thing that I always look to is historical references. What does this trend reference from decades gone by? And how can I adopt it into my space in the here and now? If you like this type of content, please give this video a like and a thumbs up. Comment below and let me know what's your favorite design trend from today. Share this video with anyone you know who is looking for some fresh new design inspiration, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Click that little notification bell for new videos that we drop on the channel every single week. Coming up next week, we've got more design trends. I'm really talking about lime wash, okay? Now, is lime wash dead in 2025? If you love these trend videos, I definitely want you to check out this video right here. It's decorating with red. Cherry core was really trending hard on Pinterest Predicts for 2025, and red isn't going anywhere. If you're looking to inject more color in your space this year, you definitely want to check that video out. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'll see you next week.